have updates on the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. Now, it has not been confirmed whether or not he has been murdered, but it does appear that the Saudis are getting ready to claim some responsibility for it, not necessarily the royals, but they're going to push out some narrative indicating that it was an interrogation that had gone wrong and that the royals had nothing to do with it, which is ridiculous when we give you all the different updates that we've learned through the last 24 hours. Now, first, CNN shared some of the surveillance footage showing Jamal Khashoggi going into the consulate. And I want you to take a quick look at that. And then I'm gonna give you some of Trump's reactions and how he has already started this narrative of defending the Saudis.
Saudi Arabia insists it is not responsible for Khashoggi's disappearance. This security footage shows the Washington Post columnist entering the Saudi consulate nearly 2 weeks ago. The Turkish government says it has audio evidence that proves he was murdered inside. The Saudis have yet to provide any evidence that shows Khashoggi leaving the building.
So CNN is absolutely right there. The Saudis keep saying like, no, he left the consulate. We had nothing to do with this. We don't know what's going on, but they haven't provided any evidence. At the same time, Saudi officials who showed up on those chartered flights are now being identified, and many of them are being identified as individuals who have very close ties to the Saudi royals. And not only did the Turkish authorities identify them, but the New York Times went out of its way to also independently verify them as well. And we're gonna give you the details on that. But before we get to all those details, Trump also had an interview with Fox Business. And during that interview, he basically made it clear that he has a very cozy relationship with the Saudis. And so he doesn't know what happened, and we shouldn't be so quick to judge the Saudis. Let's take a look at the first clip.
You did mention some of these deals. There's some arms deals at stake right now in Saudi Arabia. They're having a big,
right.
It's called the Davos of the Desert conference.
Right.
And given the news out of that part of the world with the Washington Post columnist going into the embassy and never coming out, are you still going to send a delegation? Are you still going to send Treasury Secretary?
Well, what we have right now is Mike Pompeo, who's terrific, who's done a great job, Secretary of State, is with the king right now and the Crown Prince, literally as we speak, and we're trying to find out what went on. And a lot will be determined. He hasn't gotten back to me. He's going to probably over the next couple of hours, sometime prior to your show.
Okay.
But he will be getting back to me, and you'll start hearing what is happening. Turkey's looking at it very strongly. We're all looking at it together, but Turkey and Saudi Arabia are looking at it very strongly. And it depends whether or not the king or the crown prince knew about it, in my opinion. Number one, what happened, but whether or not they knew about it. If they knew about it, that would be bad.
So that one statement, if they knew about it, that would be bad, was probably the strongest statement that Trump had in response to the Saudis. The rest of the interview, he essentially talked about how important Saudi Arabia is as our ally, and we'll get to those clips in a minute. But he did mention Mike Pompeo and how he had gone to Saudi Arabia to talk to officials there about what had happened. And in all of the images that we've seen and all of the footage that we've seen of his meetings, he seemed to be very friendly to them, which is fine because maybe behind the scenes there's some tough talk happening. But in his public statements, it makes it clear that Pompeo, Secretary of State, has not been tough on the Saudis. In fact, let me give you one of his statements. This is graphic 4. He says, I could go on about the places that the Saudis and the US are working together. The US needs to make sure that we're mindful of that. Also on the same day that Mike Pompeo went to Saudi Arabia, the United States received $100 million from Saudi Arabia. And this money is supposedly meant to convince us to stabilize Syria, portions of Syria that ISIS previously took control of.
All right, so lots to get to here. First of all, on the $100 million that they just sent us, first the Trump administration says, oh, heaven forfend, those things are not at all connected. Oh, come on. They owed us this money for a long time, or we asked them for that money for a long time. They happen to give it to us just as Mike Pompeo is talking to them. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But please, don't insult our intelligence, although that's what they do on a daily basis. So And I, before that news even came out, I had tweeted earlier in the day about how, look, we all know what happened now. It's very, very clear. The only question is, what secret deals are the governments of US, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey going to strike? What's Turkey gonna get? What's America gonna get? And then how are they gonna cover it up publicly afterwards? Because that's what's happening right now. They're negotiating, right? And Turkey's like, we caught you, you're embarrassed, and they got a beef with Saudi Arabia. They want something. And by the way, the Turks gave us Pastor Brunson back, also coincidentally at the same time, and they say, oh, that one is also not at all connected. The Turkish government says, no, the Turkish judiciary is independent. They happen to release him at the same exact time that we were meeting with Mike Pompeo. Then Pompeo goes over to Saudi Arabia and they release $100 million at the same time. There's a lot of coincidences going around here. Look, so I know a lot of the mainstream media can't say it's obvious. They can just lay out the facts for you and hope you connect the dots. It's our job to connect the dots, and I can say it. It's obvious. They're negotiating behind the scenes. Everybody's gonna get paid, except you guys, obviously. Then they will all come out with a united front on how to lie to you. And so it looks like they're settled on the lie of, well, okay, it's inconvenient because Khashoggi is gone, he's dismembered, and so we can't bring him back. So the Saudis are going to stop, likely, according to the sources, stop lying that he was not killed, but say, oops, golly gee, it was a rogue team, and that's why Trump has already said it might have been rogue killers. And as long as the crown prince and the king didn't know about it, so super easy. The crown prince and the king come out and go, well, God, we are shocked to find out that there are murders going on in Saudi Arabia. Well, this was obviously not authorized. So was it not authorized? So I'm just gonna give you, there's a million facts showing it, but let me just give you two of them that I think are dispositive. They had a bone saw with them. They sent a 15-person team with a bone saw. And they say this is an interrogation that went awry. Why'd you bring the bone saw if you were just going to question him? Number two, they brought a forensic doctor from Saudi Arabia, one of the top doctors in the country in that field, connected to the Saudi government, that specialty is autopsies.
Autopsies and dissection.
And dissection.
Yes.
Okay, gee, I wonder if it was an accident or they planned that ahead of time. It's not like they're in a different country, they're in Turkey. It's not like, oh, the guy's dead. Hey, you wanna bring the autopsy guy in and the bone saw in? No, they brought the autopsy guy and the dissection guy and the bone saw with them. That's not a rogue operation. And now the New York Times has bothered to go connect many of the people that were in that group of 15 to very closely to the Saudi government. But to which I say, of course they're connected. You think that operation gets authorized by the Secretary of the Labor, the Secretary of Transportation? No, the Crown Prince authorizes that kind of insane, really risky operation in a different country. Of course.
So we have more clips from Trump that we'll get to in just a second. And then I wanna give you the details about those Saudi officials who did go to the consulate and have been identified. But if things play out the way that we're predicting they're gonna play out, where you have 3 major countries striking some sort of deal to brush this under the rug, this sets an extremely dangerous precedent, right? This signals to everyone that if you have the audacity to criticize the US government, well, maybe not the US government for now, but if you have the audacity to criticize an ally of the US government, and that government somehow retaliates against you and possibly murders you, well, arms deals, financial connections, foreign policy deals, whatever it is, those will serve as the reasons for why our government won't do anything to protect you or prevent it from happening in the future, right?
And let's keep it real. There are only 3 countries that matter, okay, in terms of our allies. You can do anything you want to Mexicans. Mexico's a huge ally of ours. Nobody cares in the Trump administration. You can do anything you like to people in Canada, okay? But if they do something wrong, we will call them out, no question. I mean, Trump loves insulting Mexico anyway. But in the case of Saudi Arabia, whoa, there's a lot of money there. Israel, out of the question. Israel can do anything they like, they will never be criticized. Okay, certainly not by the Trump administration. And number 3 is Russia. I mean, you know what Trump said about when Russia murdered someone in the UK? Trump said, well, it's not our country. That's the United Kingdom. That's our top ally. I don't care about the ally as long as my other ally, Russia, and that's not that it's the US ally, it's just Trump's ally, is killing them, or Trump's ally in Saudi Arabia is killing someone. He doesn't care. Doesn't care at all.
And why is it that he doesn't care? It always goes back to the money. In fact, he was very transparent about that while he was being interviewed on Fox Business. Take a look.
I do not want to do that, and frankly, they have a tremendous order, $110 billion. Every country in the world wanted a piece of that order. We got all of it. And what are we going to do? So, yeah, I mean, I've had some senators come up and some congressmen. They said, well, you know, sir, I think what we should do is we should not take that order. I said, who are we hurting? It's 500,000 jobs. It'll be ultimately $110 billion, the biggest order in the history of our country from an outside military. And I said, we're going to turn that down? Why would we do that? So hopefully it's working out. We'll find out. We'll get down to the bottom of it. I hope that the king and the crown prince didn't know about it.
So he's setting it up again. I hope they didn't know about it. Wink, they already know that that's going to be the excuse. And but you know, the money, that's all I care about. I mean, isn't that sick? If you're a good Christian, I mean, did you ever read the Sermon on the Mount? Did you ever read about Jesus throwing out the money changers? This guy's obsessed with money. That's the only thing he cares about. Oh, you dismembered someone. Yeah, but how much money did you give me? I mean, think about how sick that thought is.
It's extremely sick. And remember, when he frames things in the context of, oh, the Saudis are important because this weapons deal helps with jobs here in the United States. Trump is not thinking about those things. He's not thinking about you. He's not thinking about providing jobs. It's all about wins for himself and financial deals for himself. And every once in a while, he slips up and doesn't say for the country or for the citizens. He says straight up, for me. And here's an example of that.
So Saudi Arabia, and they have, I can only say, I've been here for almost 2 years, they've been a great ally to me.
Yeah.
To me. They're investing tremendous amounts of money.
He can't help himself. To me, he said it twice.
Sometimes he's just accidentally honest because he doesn't know any better. That's why I say he's so unintelligent, because a more savvy person would be better at lying, right? So he's got a pathological need to lie, and he does on every issue, including on the jobs. There's no hundreds of thousands of jobs being created by that contract. That's a total fabrication, as usual. But other times, like when he said, oh, why'd you fire Comey? Because he was investigating me. You're not supposed to say that, you schmuck, but he can't help himself. And here, Saudi Arabia, they're good to me. So let's talk about why they're good to him. So, and about the money. During the campaign, in January of this year, Trump had said, I would want to protect Saudi Arabia. He said, but Saudi Arabia is going to have to help us economically, okay? So that's about, the country. And here, he struck that exact deal. You give me $100 million for Syria, and I give you whatever excuse you want, and you could murder any journalist you like, okay? And so that's brazen. And then, of course, there's the issue of his own personal enrichment. And there, he registered 8 companies in Saudi Arabia during his campaign. That's pretty nice. The Saudis then, after he won, transferred all their hotel rooms from other hotels, the Trump properties, to and you might think, oh, well, that's, is that really a material number? $270,000. The Saudis like to use some hotels.
That's just a little tasty taste, though.
Yeah.
Just a little tasty taste of the type of financial relationship or financial ties Trump has had with the Saudis. In fact, some of his ties go back to 2001. In June of 2001, when he sold the 44th floor of the Trump World Tower to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for $4.5 million. There's also a more recent example where he specifically said, of the Saudis at a 2015 campaign rally in Mobile, Alabama. They buy apartments for me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much.
That's as he's running for president in 2015. He said, at the same time he's saying, we got to ban all Muslims, right? Until we figure out what the hell is going on. But apparently with the Saudis, he figured out what the hell was going on. They grease him. They give him a lot of money. So he's like, oh, the Saudis, I got that figured out. They gave me $40 to $50 million. What am I supposed to do, not like them? I like them. Well, yeah, okay, you like them. But then how about when they killed the journalist and they dismembered him? What were you scared about with the Muslims? You were scared about like crazy fundamentalists, the Saudi government, doing crazy things like torturing, murdering, and dismembering people, the Saudis. Yeah, but they gave me a lot of money. Remember how good they treated me. So I don't care. I like them. So now Trump is going around the country lying on behalf of the Saudis. And he's gonna lie even more, and they're all gonna cover it up, and they're gonna pretend that somehow the bone saw and the autopsy doctor accidentally wound up on the flight, and all the guys that are right next to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on all these different trips that are part of his top security personnel, golly gee, was unauthorized. That is the lie that Donald Trump is saying now and will definitively say very soon, and you'll see it with your own eyes. Hey, look, that's why I love saying things ahead of time. If you're a MAGA guy right now and you're going, no way, I bet Donald Trump stands up to those Muslims. I bet he fights back and calls them out for what it is.
He's really trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
No, Donald Trump's selling out for money. He would never do that. Okay, go ahead. Let's see how it turns out. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.